Hello guys, first of all I welcome you all to this interview question series, and we are specifically focusing towards the Excel or advanced Excel related questions. So let's get started. So the first question for the today's session is, what is the difference between the range and name ranges? Pretty simple but important. So what is range in Excel? So range is basically the number of cells selected into the Excel worksheet. Okay, so we have a structure with respect to the Excel. Something like workbook is there. Workbook consists of multiple worksheets consist of the rows and columns, and rows and column consist of the cells we have. The smallest unit in the Excel ecosystem is cells we have. And if I are selecting the cells, if I selecting the multiple cells, it is called a range we have, right? And this is can be denoted in the Excel with respect to the A1 style referencing, which is something like A1 to A10. What this means? This means something like I am selecting the range of a cell from first row to 10th row in the column A. So this is called my address of that range we have. So instead of selecting these type of things, we can just name those range, right? We can just name those range. Suppose that I'm naming those A1 to A10 something like sales data. So this is called name ranges. So the range is clear. Range is something like I am selecting the multiple sales or a range of a sales and can be defined by something like A1 to A10, and I'm just specifically name that range. So this is called a name range we have. And let me just go with respect to the data I have right now. This is the orders details I have right now with me. If I just go here right now, so you can see that there is a quantity column is there, right? There are some of the records are there. Let me just select those cell. So this is a cell we have. In the name box you will get the address of cell something like S2. So the S column I am selecting the second row. Clear? So if I am selecting the multiple cells something like this one, this is called my range. And what is the how can we define this range into the Excel? Something like S2 to S10. So I wanted to compute how many quantities are there. So I have a function is there, something like sales we have. So let me just compute what is the sum of quantity we have in my data. Let me just take the sum, and I'm just referring whatever the values I want. So I'm just selecting the range of a cell, right? Let's just quickly look at this stuff. So S2 to S10, this is a range of a cell. Let me just click enter. I am getting 34. So instead of just going through whatever I have something like S2 to S10, I'm just name this stuff like S2 to S10. So let me just go here, equals to sum. So instead of first going with respect to sum, like let me just name those stuff. So I'm selecting the range. I want this to be named, right? So how can I name this thing? Go into the formulas, and there is one name manager is there. So go into the name manager, create new, and I'm just naming this thing something like QTY, right? Quantity shortcut. Let me just click OK. Also keep eye on these things, right? From Q1 I am selecting something like these cells, and I have a absolute referencing, so it doesn't change. Also we have to define the scope. Let's suppose I am defining the scope something like Q1. So we can't utilize this naming thing outside this Q1. So we can't utilize it into the Q2, Q3, Q4, whatever the sheets I have right now. So let me just define the higher level scope something like workbook. So can utilize this name range into any of the worksheet. Let me just click OK, right? So the name range is created here. So how can I use this thing? Let me just take the sum. So instead of referring the cell, I'm just taking the name something like QTY, right? This is the quantity I have, right? So let me just press OK. I am getting the same result. Clear guys, right? This is the name range you have into the Excel. So let's move forward with the other questions we have into the session. So what is free span in Excel? Okay, so let's suppose I have a millions and billions of records are there into my Excel worksheets, right? So and I wanted to do the exploration of a data. I wanted to see the data from the top, middle and bottom. So it is not possible for me to just navigate quickly throughout the workbook. In order to make that navigation so quicker and faster, we can utilize the feature which is called as a freeze panes in the Excel. So let me just directly go towards the Excel file I have right now. Let me just go into here. Okay, so this is the data I have, but the problem with this data is that once I scroll downwards, let me just explore the stuff. It's something like this one, right? If I just go into this record, right, this record right now, whatever the record I have, so I don't know what this column G means, right, or what this column E means, right, what this column E means. So don't I have a header? I don't have a header. So once I scroll downwards, my headers is not visible to me. So what I'm trying to do here is that I don't want header to be changes once I scroll down. So we can make those things happen into with respect to the freeze pane options we have. So select the row, go into the view, and we have a freeze pane options are there. What you wanted to freeze? I wanted to freeze first column, rows, or selected columns and rows. Let me just select the top rows. So I am freezing those stuff means what? It doesn't changes, it will just tick over there. Let me just scroll downwards, right? Once I scroll downwards, you can see that my columns or my rows, whatever I am freezing right now, not changing. So I can explore my data, and if I just scrolling downwards, I know that what this column G means or what this columns E means. So this is sigmod we have, and it's a customer name. So in order to make it navigation much more quicker and analyzable, we can make use of freeze pane. Also, we can freeze the columns as well. Once we can freeze the rows, we can also freeze the columns. Means what? If I just scroll it rightward, so I have a quite a few columns are there. Once I wanted to analyze the profit, I wanted to know what is the something like what is the name, what is the order ID for this profit, right? So 1996 something like that, or 16.296 something like that profit I have. I wanted to know the order ID, but the order ID column is not visible because it is in the this at the very beginning of the data I have. So I do not wanted to go into the hide with respect to once I'm scrolling the data. So select the order date because I wanted to freeze the order ID, right? So this column is not frame means what? This is the boundary I have, so this should not be changed. So I'm selecting the order date, go into the freeze pane, and freeze panes we have, right? So right now you can see that if I just scroll it, let me just again freeze those stuff, maybe let me just again go here and freeze column, right? And I'm just scrolling through it, and you can see that row ID is not changes, right? Row ID is not changing. Or we can just make it another thing, unfreeze this thing, again selecting the order ID, freeze, and freeze panes is there. So right now this is, you can see the boundary is visible for you guys, right? Let me just scroll it through, and you can just go into the profit, and you can see that the CA 2018 152156 is the order ID corresponding to whatever the record you wanted to analyze. So, okay, so this is the freeze pane we have. We can just freeze the rows and columns in order to make it navigation better, or in order to make it more accessible, or we can just say that exploration of data which is a much quicker with respect to the freeze pane we have. Clear guys? So let's just move forward with the other question I have right now. So the next question is how to prevent someone from adding, deleting, or inserting any data or cells in the Excel sheet. Okay, so it's come under the protection, right? It's come under the protection means what? I am working with respect to the team, right? But I am the only person who is able to add the data into the workbook or worksheet I have. So but I wanted to share this with respect to the multiple peoples into the organizations. So in order to make this happen, we can utilize something like privacy options, right? Or privacy options we have, or we can utilize the protecting the sheets, right? So we can prevent the user from adding, deleting, or inserting data, right? Or the sales, whatever we wanted to protect, right? So we can utilize those stuff. Let me just directly go into the Excel file I have, right? Excel file I have, and this is a small data I have with respect to the utilizing those options, right? So what I'm trying to do here is that let me just select whatever the range I have. So let's just take one example here. the region, category and subcategories there. I wanted to make this thing, right, or I wanted to make this sheet to be protected, right, to be protected, so that I have this data. No one wants to add anything with respect to whatever the data I have, right now I can add this thing, right now I can add this thing. So let me just protect this workbook. So let me just go into whatever the review I have and the protect worksheet. So as soon as you protect the worksheet, there is two things which is tick marked here, which is called selected log cells, selected unlock cell. Let me just tick it out right now, tick it out, right, and I can give them a password right now. Let me just take the generic password and let's just click OK, and I wanted to confirm the password and click OK. Okay, this sheet is protected now, right? This sheet is protected right now. I'm just wanted to select, I can't able to select this term. Let me just add something here. I can't able to add these things. Let me just right click and delete, right? I don't have an options to delete anything. So this is how we can just protect the sheet. So this is how we can just protect the sheets. Or if I wanted to protect the workbook, you can add the workbook level operations here as well. Clear? So we can just unprotect it. In order to unprotect it, I want to enter the password. Let me just click the password here, and it is unprotected right now, and we can add the data here as well. Clear? This is how we can just protect our worksheet. We can also share the workbook, right, and we can just click OK, right. Here you cannot share because this is something like protection I have. So this is how we can just make these things happen into the Excel workbook or worksheet way. Clear, guys? So this is all we have for this session right now, right? This is all we have for these sessions, and in the next session we will have more interview questions. Let's just practice those stuff, and we will meet in the next one.